There is a scene in the Spider-Man 1 movie from 2002 in which Peter Parker brings some pictures of Spider-Man to J. Jonah Jameson for the front page of the Daily Bugle. After they settle on the payment, Mr. Jameson is asked about the headline of the newspaper, to which he replies,
"Spider-Man, hero or menace?"
This line, other than a perfect insight to the brain of Jonah Jameson, is also a valid representation of how the world is portrayed by media. Their central dogma is this: there are heroes and there are villains, good guys and bad guys. In actuality, however, such a distinction isn't always possible. Ancient Chinese philosophy and the concept of yin-yang present the idea that good and evil are interconnected. Thus, a third category is created, that of the anti-hero. In fiction, anti-heroes are depicted as possessing characteristics of both heroes and villains, having distinct qualities and flaws. For this reason, anti-heroes have ardent fans and equally passionate haters. But what if I told you that heroes, anti-heroes and villains exist not only in fiction, but also in real life, namely in sports? In basketball, there is no better anti-hero than LeBron James. His career even follows the typical hero's journey, starting with the Cavaliers and his rise to superstardom, followed by the decision and his villainous arc in Miami, which culminated in the 2011 finals, after which he completely reinvented himself, winning 2 championships with the Heat, fulfilling his promise upon returning to Cleveland, and even achieving a 4th championship with the Lakers. In what is gonna be year 19 in his career, LeBron still remains the most divisive player in the league, both with fans and media, though last season saw the rise of a new anti-hero, Ben Simmons. Due to his well-pronounced strengths and weaknesses, Simmons' game could always be described as love it or hate it. However, after a horrific series in the Eastern Conference semifinals and what has transpired in the months since, it seems that very few people still believe in Ben Simmons, to the point that his true value as a basketball player is unclear. So today, we're gonna talk about both the good and the bad side of Ben Simmons and discuss some possible trade destinations where he can have an impact.
I'm a huge fan of Ben Simmons. I think he's a jump shot away from being LeBron James Part 2.
It doesn't take a well-trained basketball eye to identify Simmons' biggest asset. Standing at 6'11", he is substantially taller than the average NBA point guard, and Ben knows how to make the most of his size, creating mismatches on both offense and defense. Let's start with the offense. As the Sixers' primary ball handler, it's Simmons' job to create both for himself and for his teammates. When he's asked to create his own shot, he's most effective when driving to the rim with a full head of steam. Usually, the best way of achieving this is by using his explosive speed to go coast to coast before the opposing team is able to set their defense. The transition game is Simmons' specialty, with more than a quarter of his points originating from the fast break. In the half-court, Ben Simmons capitalizes on his physical gifts in the form of backdoor cuts to the basket. Added to that, Simmons is also proficient in the pick and roll. Look how he uses his teammate's screen to create some separation and force a switch, leading to an easy 2. While early in his career Ben was only deployed as the pick and roll ball handler, last season he made a conscious effort to also play the role of the screen setter, creating scoring opportunities for his teammates. Screening isn't, however, the only way he achieves this. Simmons' most prolific gift offensively is his passing. He has excellent vision, spotting backdoor cutters from the high post, but more importantly, he is great at kicking the ball out to his open teammates. Over the last 2 seasons, Ben Simmons ranks 4th in assisted 3-pointers with 422, only behind Luka Doncic, Russell Westbrook, and Damian Lillard. This deadly combination of vision and basketball IQ can also be identified in his defensive game. Together with his lateral speed, they make him a menace on the perimeter for opposing guards. But what if he gets switched onto a bigger wing or a center? No problem. Ben's speed allows him to contain shifty guards like Donovan Mitchell, and his size allows him to smother wings like Luka Doncic. His matchup versatility really should not be understated. Night in and night out, you can count on Ben to guard the opposing team's best player, regardless of his position. For all these reasons, Simmons finished 2nd in the race for the Defensive Player of the Year and grabbed his 2nd All-Defensive First Team award. Ben's strengths are magnified when he is surrounded by shooters and can operate as the team's point center. Take for example his performance in Utah, where he dropped a career-high 42 points, along with 12 assists and 9 rebounds against the league's #1 defense Jazz without Joel Embiid. Performances like this, however, are statistical outliers so far in his career, whether it has been due to bad management, bad coaching, or just bad luck. Throughout Simmons' tenure, the Sixers have done a better job at showcasing his weaknesses rather than his strengths.
We know Ben Simmons is a legitimately very good player and a legitimate all-star. But his deficiency at this point in time in the NBA is huge.
Yes, it's finally time to address the elephant in the room. Ben Simmons can't shoot, or won't shoot, or both. Let me show you what I mean. There are countless words to describe Giannis Antetokounmpo. Freak, MVP, champion, take your pick. Good shooter isn't one of them. During the 2021 playoffs, Giannis shot 43% from the mid-range and 18% from 3. Bad numbers that look even worse compared to his elite 70% shooting from inside the paint. That said, his willingness to keep shooting even when the ball wasn't going in was instrumental for the Bucks winning the championship, as it created more space for his teammates to operate. Simmons, on the contrary, seems unwilling to shoot from outside the paint. Throughout his career, Ben has attempted 34 three-pointers, making only 5 of them. This is the area of his game which has received the most criticism by far. However, his mid-range shooting is much more concerning. During his rookie year, he shot 218 times from the mid-range on a 32% field goal percentage. By no means efficient, but at least it could be seen as a solid base for a rookie to work on. In the last 2 seasons combined, he only attempted 74 mid-range shots on a 28% efficiency, meaning that not only he hasn't improved in that aspect of his game, he has actively become worse. Similar decline can be seen in his free throw shooting percentage. While his 2021 regular season percentage is better than his career average, during the postseason he plummeted to a career low 34% from the line. As a result, late in games, Philly's opponents would implement the Hake-Simmons strategy with great success. Consequently, his role as a ball handler in the fourth quarters quickly diminished, getting reduced to a spectator who clogged the paint. The Sixers ended up losing in the conference semifinals after blowing a 3-1 lead to the Atlanta Hawks. Ben's awful performances in the fourth quarters played a big part for this collapse, as he was thrown under the bus by both his coach Doc Rivers and his teammate Joel Embiid. In the months that followed, Ben Simmons did what any guy going through a bad breakup would do: publicly demanded a trade, worked out on the gym, posted a ton on Instagram, and finally announced that he won't be joining the 76ers training camp. This leaves team general manager Daryl Morey with a very hard dilemma. On one hand, Simmons is a very gifted player that has 4 years left on his contract. As such, the Sixers should be in no rush to trade him. On the other hand, his trade value is dropping by the day, not to mention that his relationship with the management, the coaches, and his teammates looks to be fractured beyond repair. It seems like Ben Simmons has played his last game in Philly, and that only a trade would benefit both sides moving forward.
Despite how bad it is for Simmons right now, you have to imagine there's at least 5, maybe 10 teams that are like, look, we'd love to have this guy.
Searching for a potential trade destination for Ben Simmons isn't an easy job. Most championship contenders have stacked rosters and lack the necessary tradable contracts to make a move. On the other end of the spectrum, while Simmons is indeed a nice piece to build around for rebuilding teams, they would most likely need to give up draft compensation to go along with their young assets. For these reasons, a middle-of-the-pack team wanting to go all in makes the most sense for Ben Simmons. The most obvious choice is the Portland Trail Blazers. Even back in March, when I uploaded my Damian Lillard video, I talked about how the Blazers can't win a championship as presently constructed, and I suggested the CJ McCollum-Ben Simmons trade. This trade works because the Sixers add an elite shooter in the form of CJ McCollum to complement Joel Embiid's inside presence, and for the Blazers' sake, Simmons helped with the 2 biggest weaknesses. Last season, Portland had the second worst defense in the league and a very isocentric offense with minimal ball movement. Simmons' defensive prowess and excellent passing can help combat both. In addition, a Lillard-Simmons partnership can perform similarly to the one of Steph Curry and Draymond Green. By surrendering the ball to Ben Simmons, like Steph did with Dre, Dame can get more open looks from the outside and become even more efficient. Honestly, I love the trade back in March, and I still love it now. Next up, we got the Minnesota Timberwolves, the NBA's example of Murphy's Law. The Timberwolves had no reason to be as bad as they were last year, especially with their 2021 draft pick being owed to the Warriors. A Ben Simmons-D'Angelo Russell trade can help them avoid a similar outcome this upcoming season. As was the case with the Blazers, the Wolves were awful defensively, the third worst in the league, and while Portland had a slow, isolation-heavy offense, Minnesota loved to run on the fast break, a perfect fit for Simmons' transition game. Ben also fits the Wolves' timeline, or should I say the Pups. Their core consists of 20-year-old Anthony Edwards, 24-year-old Malik Beasley, and 25-year-old Karl Anthony Towns. Adding 25-year-old Ben Simmons to that mix would turn the Timberwolves into a playoff team for the years to come. Dallas could also be a destination for Simmons in exchange for Kristaps Porzingis and Jalen Brunson. In this scenario, the two teams swapped their disgruntled stars. The Mavericks had some much-needed perimeter defense around Luka and a playmaker who can allow him to go off the ball. As for the Sixers, Brunson and Porzingis offer additional shot creation and scoring. Lastly, the Spurs should be mentioned as a dark horse team to trade for Simmons. Coach Pop has expressed many times his admiration for Ben Simmons and his dislike for tanking. Trading for him at this particular time would save the Spurs from a full-blown rebuild and give them a solid building block for the future. However, the lack of a large contract on the Spurs would require more pieces to be moved from both sides, making a potential trade more difficult but not impossible.
Until Isle Delfino is completely free of his vile handiwork, Mario shall not be allowed to leave. Court adjourned.
Just like the yin-yang, Ben Simmons' strengths and weaknesses are intertwined and inseparable from each other. This is something the teams that are willing to trade for him should take into account. Other than the league's most versatile defender and a generational playmaker, you also get a non-shooter who can be unplayable late in close games. His actions off the court over the last months have also brought his character into question. A player not showing up to training camp only a year after signing a max contract extension sets a very dangerous precedent for the NBA. Truth is, Simmons was never meant to be the league's hero. His game doesn't connect to the fans like Steph's, Lucas's, or Giannis's does. What Ben can do is embrace that and instead become the best villain he can be. By improving his mid-range shot, his free throws, and playing a more active role off the ball, Simmons can be the key to a championship team when combined with an elite perimeter scorer. Is Ben Simmons a scrub? Absolutely not. Is Ben Simmons a superstar? Well, not quite yet. This season we'll find out if he ever becomes one.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.